we're a little less worried about like performance levels, like the actual wattage he hits during the test, the actual speeds you hit during the test. We're more interested, can we tease out why you fall apart, right? What systems is causing the cascading effect that causes you to have to slow down? If we can isolate that, then we know exactly what needs to be done for training.
Yeah.
Sean, did you bring yours?
I brought mine.
All right, so we have two. We can do them side by side.
We can't, so we only have one trip. We only have one trip. Unless we're not going to test Jake on the run.
Yeah, you can just test him on the bike.
Yeah, like he doesn't.
Or you
We're
can
not as worried about his
Or you
run.
can test him run separately. You can test him running,
Yeah.
not necessarily straight off the bike.
Yeah,
Like the step test for Sam is going to be 18 minutes on the treadmill. Like it's not going to.
No, we're doing 5-on-5. Oh, I see.
No,
Yes.
we're doing the bike test and then the treadmill test directly afterwards.
Right.
And
It's
so
only gonna be, right.
if we just like started
Yeah, you can start
Jake
5 minutes
15,
after,
20 minutes after,
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, we
then
can totally do
it
that.
would just mesh up.
Yeah.
We have enough iPhones to collect data.
Yeah, I've got a couple of iPads as well, so it's not.
Yeah,
All good.
perfect. Okay.
Easy. And I think you brought some
What's the
Moxies.
bike test?
8.
How long?
Yeah, well, what's
So it's 5 minutes at a set wattage. 1 minute
One for each
total reps.
testicle.
Repeat the same wattage again for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Then step up.
Okay.
So it's similar to your 7 minutes, but instead of going straight for 7 minutes, you're doing 2 5s.
Okay.
So
What-
it's 10 minutes at each interval. With a 1 minute full.
Why do you think that's better having? I know. Sort of, you look at Inside and they have a break to carry on testing lactate before they actually test.
So it's not because
Yeah.
we don't do anything to do with lactate.
No, I know exactly.
But, so
it's,
ours is actually looking at the reason of a 1 minute completely off is actually look at how the different systems recover. Right? So Moxie helps look at how the muscle oxidation is recovering. The VO2 looks at how the respiratory system is recovering, and the heart rate looks at heart rate variability and heart rate recovery in that 1 minute off. And so you'll see trends happen that are different at the lower intensities than they are when you get close to balance point.
yeah.
And what happens is you start having compensators. So you'll start identifying the one that is a weaker because it actually can't recover.
Yeah.
But you also start seeing how the other systems are trying to help recover the system. So if your breathing can't recover, then what happens is your muscle oxidation doesn't recover, but it's because of your breathing. So your breathing fails first, and then you start seeing the trends in the Moxie.
Yeah. Now, also, you say you're not using lactate. What about heart rate?
We can use that. I mean, you're welcome to take
No,
that.
no, but what about heart rate as well at the same time?
Yeah.
Heart rate.
Yeah.
So on the 1 minute ramp, on the 1 minute run ramp test, or the 17 minutes or whatever ramp test.
It's 3. Yeah, we'll do 3 minute
3 minutes
intervals.
on.
3 minute intervals.
To see a stability.
And there's no rest periods.
Yeah, but it's a bit short for
Yeah.
stability, isn't it? 3 minutes.
What's that?
It's a bit short for stability.
It's the minimum, yeah.
Just a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be too short at the lower
For a
intensities.
fit athlete, it should be fine. For a non-fit athlete, it could be a little less stable.
Yeah.
Okay, because a lot of the research that I've read and looked at saying 3 minutes is
Depends
not.
on
Yeah.
but
For
The re-
most people, it's
No,
not enough.
even world class,
Yeah.
even world class athletes
So,
will
yeah.
go
the
even
only
up to 10
reason it
minutes.
wouldn't be long enough is if the steps are too big. Right? So if you take too big a step, if you go from 5 miles an hour to 8 miles an hour, then your body he just won't be warmed up enough to be able to hit that thing. But if you're actually taking small, so our steps are smaller. Our small.
we can do it. We can do it a little bit longer than 3 minutes.
Oh, I don't even care. Like we can do 5 minutes.
What are the
So
what are the steps up normally?
I typically do just 3 minute steps because
No, but what the step in between each step?
It depends on the athlete. So for him, what's your like miles per hour?
No idea of that.
Is it a kilometer treadmill?
Yeah.
What's your kilometers per hour at threshold? Around? Doesn't need to be
Like
exact.
when you said, like my first threshold.
No, LT2. So LT2, you're looking around about 315 kilometer pace.
Yeah.
And LT1 335.
Yeah.
The last test we did, there was 335 and 315 was
Right.
LT1 LT2.
Yeah. So
So
we'll
it's
probably
10.
have to start the test at like, what is that? Do the
350.
math. All of our treadmills in Canada are miles per hour.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. So it's 15K now. No, it's more than that.
Yeah. We have to get them up over
Yeah,
18 kilometers an hour.
55, 10 minutes, 10
Probably end up
Ks,
starting at around
18K an hour.
8 or 9 kilometers per hour and then
going up one
going
at a
up
time.
1.5.
1.5.
pounds per hour.
So the benefit of doing it, if you're actually just
That's still
looking,
quite a big jump, though, isn't it?
That's a fair enough.
so,
Fair
if, you
enough.
just,
That's a big
so
jump.
if you're just looking at trends, then you can leave any step longer if you see that he's not actually balanced, then you just leave it longer,
Yeah,
right? Because it doesn't matter how long the interval is,
yeah,
because you're just looking for stability. So the first interval could be 2 minutes, because it only takes him 2 minutes to actually become stable. The next one could be 4. Then you can go 2 again. You can go 6. It doesn't matter how long the intervals are, because you're only looking at the trends of what happens at the different speeds. So that's the difference.
But it's also
physiologic
It's
steps.
interesting to take that into account because
But
there might be
what
zones.
I've noticed with a number of these athletes is that when you go into 5, like if you do a 5-minute ramp test,
Yeah.
their actual heart rate will drop over that 5 minutes.
Sure, yeah, you gain
Yeah,
stroke
if they
volume.
overshoot. Yeah.
No, even in the pace. So they're running on the treadmill and they're pacing, so
But
the
if
heart rate will
their
go
heart
up,
rate, that's
and then
their
it'll
heart
settle.
rate, their heart
Then
rate.
heart rate will go up, and then it's also settled, but it'll settle back down again.
Mhm.
It won't stay at the top. So if you see sort of a trend going up, that's one of the reasons why I always thought that sort of doing a block period of time, that each one is the same for every speed as you actually go, as you go
Yeah,
through.
and there's benefits to doing longer steps. The challenge of doing longer steps, of course, then you starts getting more tired, and then when you're right at where you want to be, actually looking at the data, where
But
it's
yeah, but
most
also
specific.
don't forget they're Ironman athletes. They're not short course 10k
No,
runners.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where we're looking at is sort of right at the bottom end of how efficient he can actually be, how low can he get his lactate, how low or how efficient is his VO2 at a certain speed and his breathing function, everything else.
That's the thing, is that
more
already we could take both my LT1s are fine. I don't need to up them as long as I can keep them going for an Ironman, and it's plenty fast enough to win every race. You know, if I can hold even 360 watts on the bike and run at 335 ground space, there's not going to be anybody who can do that. But I need the strength and the efficiency to be able, and the fuel to be able to do that.
Mhm. Off the bike.
But it's like on paper, everything's much easier.
It's easier around here.
Yeah.
So I'll be
Well, that's
interested.
like the reason why we're a little less worried about like performance levels, like the actual wattage he hits during the test, the actual speeds you hit during the test. We're more interested, can we tease out why you fall apart, right? What systems is causing the cascading effect that causes you to have to slow down? If we can isolate that, then we know exactly what needs to be done for training.
Yeah. Also, in running, I often use stride as a power from that instead of the actual speed. Because obviously, then when we go to a running tracks are never, the distances and everything else are just completely screwed. Depending on
And
which
some
way
traction
you're
like slightly uphill one way.
But on our treadmill, I think it overreads a little bit.
That's the other thing for running on the power sort of thing. Running off that power.
Yeah, it will.
Are you running the treadmill at 1% or 1.5?
I don't normally. No, I just leave it on normal.
You leave it flat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I
So
know I've said
that's
that.
why I overestimate it, because it pulls, because the treadmill by definition pulls your foot through.
Yeah, but we got a woodway treadmill, which
Yeah.
okay.
It's better.
And that's why.
Yeah.
That's one of the. It's fantastic. It's that you're running on. It's not where you're actually slowing the carpet down.
Yeah.
And then or
you're
the belt
pushing.
down. You're actually.
Yeah.
That's one of the
But you
reasons.
still think you can run fast? You run faster on the woodway than you can on a flat ground?
about 10 seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
Especially at high, I don't know. At high, you can see it with the wattage. Like the wattage is similar to outdoors at a lower intensity. But then as you get higher, like let's say at 20 kilometers per hour, that will like the same wattage outdoors will be 19 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So the woodway is more efficient for you.
Which makes sense though. Like, you ask a biomechanist like that knows running, and they're like, well, treadmill running is not actually running.
Yeah.
It's very close running-like behavior.
Woodway is close.
Yeah.
Closer, and
It's
woodway is
better.
closer than a flat. Yeah.
Yeah. But still,
So that would be fun to watch.
And so on the bike one, the 10 minute, 1 minute, 10 minute. 5 minute, 1 minute, 5 minute. You said I can take nutrition in the 1 minute rest or not?
Yeah, no problem.
You're not looking at the respect. You're not looking at any.
So I mean,
I wouldn't want you to take the mask off every minute,
Yeah.
but when you need it. So at 20 minutes or at 30 minutes, and you need some fuel, and then
Yeah.
That'd be
Because
also, that'd be
you're
also
still gonna be
interesting
breathing
to
the
see what
same.
happens from your perspective when you're fueling. Because I think that's one of the restricting factors.
No, last time I got to 15 mil, so I wouldn't.
How do you find your heart rate recovers between intervals? Do you feel like you're a fast dropper? You recover really well and deep?
I don't really do that many intervals like that. You know, we don't. Yeah. So I never.
It'll be interesting. Yeah. So if you find, or if we find that you're needing every second of the minute to, because we're going to scrutinize how well you recover.
Yeah.
Then we might take the first minute of the next 5 minute interval and you take your nutrition then.
Yeah.
Because you have 5 minutes to find stability. That's why it's a 5 minute step. And so you can take a gel, take a drink, slap the mask back on.
I have a question regarding, so if he fuels during the test, it will influence lactate if we were to take lactate.
Yeah.
Now, if we don't take lactate but we look at the Moxie, how is nutrition going to affect the trends on the Moxie relative to, because I guess the two are linked in one way or another, lactate and...
It's a great question. I don't know enough about, I haven't seen anything talking about nutrition effect on Moxie.
Okay. Have you seen anything looking at trends?
When I raced with Moxie.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't perfect. So when you take an addition during the race, there's not any chance.
You can't spot anything. Okay.
You can change the SMO2 or THB just by breathing.
Right. Yeah.
Or the gearing, but not by the.
No, but okay.
Anecdotally, we've started to see some interesting trends with nutrition and core.
Okay.
Like as
Body temperature change.
as athletes lose
Right. Okay. Yeah.
the mitochondrial ability to produce ATP,
Yeah.
they'll actually get colder.
Okay.
They're not producing as much thermal calories.
Okay. How do you explain
So you
that?
start using core temperature as an indication that you're actually underfueled. Because you're unable to actually produce the energy to keep your body warm.
Your ATP level drops because you're unable to.
Utilize.
And you'd probably,
Sugars
if you were
as well.
watching power closely, if you're actually on an ergometer and just riding free, you'd notice your power dropping too, because you don't have the fuel to maintain the power, and that actually corresponds to a drop in temperature. You just can't feel it outside,
Yeah.
and with winds and everything else, you actually may not notice that your power is dropping.
To
If you're running by power, if you're
Yeah.
trying to hold 300 watts,
Yeah.
you're now having to drive a higher heart rate to get there.
Yeah.
But you don't realize it's because you're pushing other systems to compensate for the fact that you can't burn sugars anymore, or you're not burning sugars because you don't have the fuel source.
Now the heat thing is really interesting, and I haven't looked into it enough to understand it well.
Yeah.
To what extent is internal temperature linked to the uncoupling at the mitochondrial level and the heat production of that inefficiency? Is it just not on the same level, or is it linked?
It's interesting because the core. I think it's new enough technology that nobody knows.
Okay.
But the core guys are associating it with what's happening peripherally,
Okay.
and it's yet to be seen. And so part of when we're doing testing and we're looking at different trends, and then you start looking at, you have to look at it over long durations, because a test doesn't. You'll just see the temperature increase, and then most people will get to a plateau at.
If they get
plateau, they'll plateau out, and then they'll just hold it, and that's great. You see, some people just will keep going up and up and up, and then there's a failure point, and then it depends on, and then
there's like a Goldilocks zone there, because you can also the original way I was using core was just to determine whether somebody has a homeostatic temperature problem.
Yeah.
And give them heat training according to how bad their temperature changes.
Okay.
But now we're starting to see that going too high is not so good, but it's also dropping is not good.
Okay.
We want to see it sort of stable.
if you're riding somewhere hot like Kona, and your temperature starts to go down, there is something seriously wrong with what's going on for you.
So what does it mean?
It means in Kona it would mean that you're probably losing fuel. You probably haven't kept up with your fueling.
Okay.
Right, so you're now no longer able to generate the power to keep the heat in your body.
Yeah.
But I think that's been seen quite a few without actually the core. You see people who finish racing and they are cold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they are completely depleted, or even through sort of the day, their body's starting to get colder, and therefore the body gets.
Or they're not absorbing the food because they went too hard early, and all the other potential.
And it's not necessarily like a lack of fuel; it's a shutting down of your processing of fuel.
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
me. All the stuff sitting in my stomach.
Highlight
There's a good story there, but it's a good learning experience.
We'll save that one for later.
Okay, so the other part of actually taking lactate in a 5-1-5 will be interesting because you could actually do it at the end of each of the 2 5-minute things, and you'll see what happens when you actually give the body enough chance to actually. So you'll actually see lactate go up after that minute rest, right?
Yeah.
And then the question is at the end of the next 5 minutes whether it's come back down or whether it's continued to climb.
What's the jump between 10 minutes?
Actually, similar test they are doing in Leuven in Belgium,
What's that?
on the university. They are doing this stuff like they are using this not 5-1-5. I think it's like it's longer. It's like 7-1-7
Okay.
or something like this. And they are taking the lactate before the first, after the first, after the second, and you can see the similar thing because in the first steps you have a still stable lactate, and that from one point you have at the end of the first step, this is the same step, you have something like 1.6. Yeah. And on the end of the seconds, but on the same power output, you have like 2 limos.
Yeah.
You have reached first lactate threshold.
Yeah, and this goes, and when we used to talk about what happens when you do lactates in a step test and how the duration of the step will change. Your 7-minute ones is better than most because you would expect after 7 minutes that things would be stable.
Yeah.
I'm shocked at how low those numbers are, and so in my head I'm thinking about why those lactate numbers are low, and why Sam's feeling is that doesn't make sense. And for me, that an absolute lactate never makes sense because it's just a number. It's just how much sugar you're burning. So what's more interesting is the trend of it, and what would be more interesting is what happens if he held that wattage and tested every 3 minutes for the next 15 minutes, and whether it's slowly.
We've done that. I've done that quite a few times where we've actually sat him on race wattage.
We've never tested that.
No, well, not. We've done it in training where when we were getting ready for Kona, we would actually test. So we would sit at a wattage, and we would literally every 5 minutes I would take his lactate all the way through see what's actually happening, if it's going up or going down. Yeah, and keeping it as stable as it possibly can.
Which is really your best way of using lactate is actually looking at those trends.
Yeah.
And then using it to see whether the fueling is right. Because if it's going down and he's holding stable wattage, then one of 2 things happening. It's either well below his balance point, he's actually using lactate as a fuel, which is great, or he's actually run out of fuel and he actually has no sugars to burn.
Right.
And if he's trying to go that pace, he's going to need sugars. And he actually should be able to maintain a lactate. It shouldn't be dropping.
That's the problem with obviously the higher wattage we go, so the more calories we have to take in.
Yeah. Which is really what Gustav and Christian changed the game with how they're racing, is that they're
taking 200.
fully running on sugars.
Yeah.
So they don't actually have the ability to go. They're at the top end of what they're able to do because it's how much sugar they need to actually maintain that engine going.
Yeah.
I'm just shocked at those wattages that you're talking about. If you're actually able to do that and you're not having to use as much fuel as they are, then you're going to have a huge advantage.
You see, Sam takes quite a lot of fuel. So you
would have to.
120 grams.
In Kona.
Yeah.
Yeah, 130.
130 grams an hour on Kona.
Maybe 120 in the run.
And you're able to tolerate that, okay?
Yeah. No issues at all. I can. If I had to, I could quite easily do 200. Like, I wouldn't find it difficult. It's difficult, like when it's on a turbo, I could definitely do 200, but it's more difficult when you're outdoors.
In racing,
You probably had to up it a little bit for PTO.
The PTO race is same again. On paper, yes, but it's so intense and quick that it's difficult to take as much.
Yeah.
Did
you overdo?
How long does a race take?
3 hours.
3?
Yeah. As I said, like these races they're not my, like the half distance and the PTO races, they're good for me to work on my weaknesses, but it's never what I'm going to excel at.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And
what do you feel was the gut issue?
That was caffeine in Collins Cup.
In Collins Cup.
That was caffeine.
Sorry, Collins Cup,
That was caffeine completely.
Yeah.
No, Sam doesn't normally. No, that's the only time you've had stomach issues.
The only thing is that I have moved across from one brand to another. I was working with Endurance, which is a Slovenian brand, and they were the first. I started buying it like 4 years when they actually before they were official. They were the first to go 1 to 0.8 glucose to fructose ratio, rather than 2 to 1, and so I kind of jumped on the bandwagon then, and then they sponsored me, etc. And then I was still keen to keep using the product because they clearly worked for me and stuff in Kona. But me and my old manager, we believed in the product, so we decided to become the French distributors of the company.
Okay.
And then it got pretty nasty with my old manager, and I wanted to stop all the links I had with him basically. So I left. And then since then he's gone on to become, I think, the CEO of Endurance. So then I moved. Now I have a contract with Morton now.
Right.
But I mean, I've used, even on the marathon, like I used Endurance on the bike, but then towards the end of the marathon, I started using the aid stations, and they have Morton. It is quite good. I don't think it's any better particularly. I think the hydrogel thing is more.
And that's the thing is, if you don't have gut issues and you have the ability to absorb and push things through fast and don't have an issue, then again, that's one of those system benefits. Is it a limitation? It's a limitation if you can't absorb stuff out of your stomach and you can't move things through fast enough. But if that's not your limiting issue, then Morton's not going to actually be any better for you. Right?
It might be overcomplicating it.
What's that?
It might be overcomplicating it.
But it seems to work well.
Yeah, well, clearly
it works well.
Those are big volumes and big high concentrations, and if you tolerate that and you've been able to train that up to that, that's.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't done any. I haven't yet done any specific training to
Increase it.
No, which we could do, I suppose. But then, I think generally, because on the run it's very difficult to take even 80 grams is hard enough to take, right? So,
you'll never be able to take the same concentration or the same volume as running as you would as you're running.
The goal is to keep the deficit as minimal as possible before you get onto the actual run.
Yeah, we used to talk about having you fuel on the bike for the run.
Yeah.
Right? So there's the minimum you need to be able to maintain what you're setting as your goal wattage or your power output on the bike, and then you need extra calories for the fact that you're going to be calorie deficient on the run.
Yeah.
But the faster you guys get on the run, that's the crazy part of the fact that now you guys are running. I think you run 2:42.
Yeah.
That's your best, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're shortening up the marathon point that you don't actually need to take in as much as when people were struggling to run 3 hours or 2:50.
Yeah.
That extra 20 minutes is a lot of calories that you don't need to
The
have.
thing is, we need to make a choice as well, like whether, like for instance, the Norwegians, their strength is more the run, I would say, and so, and even I've seen Olav and stuff saying lots of his podcasts or whatever that they're pretty much they're not going to get much faster on the bike, but they can find another 10-15 minutes probably on the run. But for me, it's like it could potentially be the opposite. Like I could maybe find 5 minutes running, but I find it difficult to find a lot more personally. But I do feel like I can make the bike quite a bit faster. And so it could be a different strategy. You know, it could be just accepting.
The wattages you're talking about are significantly faster, and that's why it's my head's struggling getting around the concept of those kind of wattages, because that's a significant increase over the small time, like the small changes that have happened over the last 10 years have gone from 300 was a big deal. But even yours at 315, it's been 10 years of 300s and low 300s, and for you to go from thinking 315 to 340.
Well, even when Frodeno won and he had the record before, he said in Kona nobody has 300 watts. He said.
No.
So,
and so you had to back to the 340 off in Kona because of the. But even then,
if I was to tomorrow do an Ironman here on a flat bit of road, like I would find it very, very comfortable. I'd find it pretty comfortable to definitely do 330, and that's like with no specific training. I mean, I do specific training every day, but I mean, I'm not on peak Ironman. And then but equally I am better since Kona.
So I want to go back to what you said about the run. So you don't see yourself being able to drop more than 5 minutes on the run?
I don't know.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know what limit Sam can actually, well, how much we can take off.
Right.
But for me, that comes in part and parcel. It's sort of, at the moment, I want Sam to still carry on improving on the bike. Obviously, don't follow the strategy of everybody else. You run your own strategy. And if they want to stay with you, they're going to blow up and then they can't run. Yeah,
that's exactly what
that's
you
the
want.
thing that I have to also, and it's the same. It's why I've done quite well in the PTO races so far. Is that on paper, like if we were to all do a 16k run, I'd be one of the slowest. But I managed to like have the top 5 or top 8 run times or whatever, because I just have to make the race so hard that people were giving up mentally. You know, like it's like they're not even gonna try.
Yeah.
And we did a PTO race in Dallas where it was like stupidly hot, and it was the same there. Like, I really pushed to start the bike, and it just meant that it was a 16k run or 18k, 18k. And we all averaged like, I think the fastest guy ran 3:35 kilometers pace, and I ran like 3:48 or something.
Right.
And it's an 18k run. You know, like people should be running 3 flat, 3:10.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, and that's a fascinating thing when you look at those races, and even the most successful athletes all make the same mistake. Even if they know they're the fastest runner in the field, they usually don't give themselves the credit that they're going to be able to do it. So they freak themselves out, and then they push too hard. Yeah, I mean, Lang was really good about backing off, and until he wasn't, because then he had pressure to be able to repeat after he had good success, and then he pushed too hard the next year, and then blew up on the bike. And almost every good runner has done that, made that same mistake. They work on their bike skills for the year, and they think they're going to be able to keep up with the best riders, and you're like, oh, you can outrun those guys by 10 minutes. Why are you trying to ride with guys that are 10 minutes faster than you? It's just, that's a fascinating, the dilemma of Ironman, especially in Kona, is a fascinating thing. It'd be interesting to see how it changes in France with a different course.
What's difficult in France in Nice is that you have to make a real decision on whether you want to ride fast and burn all your matches, or ride really slow, but keep your energy for the ride. It's like because you can, if you ride up the hills, if you want to ride them fast, you have to go up them. If you want to do a fast bike course, you need to do all the hills at like at least LT2, if not sometimes above, because the hills are so short, and that's where you make the most time. It's on the slow bits of the course. And then, or you decide to race it really efficiently, so like you kind of keep a steadier wattage, but that's actually a really slow way of riding.
Right.
And I did
on that course. It's a slow way of riding.
Any hilly course, any hilly course,
it's like that.
You need
any hilly time trial course.
But Kona's not a hilly course.
No.
We're talking about.
As I say, which is again, Kona's a completely different piece, because you can actually hold the waters almost the entire way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so like I did an Ironman in Bolton 2 years ago, and there was Joe Skipper, who's also came 5th in Kona this year, and Leon Chevalier came 6th. Anyway, they're both good athletes, and the bike course in Bolton is lots of steep ups and downs, and it's just like there's never a long climb, but there's a lot of parts where you have to keep the momentum, and like if you want to go over it fast and keep the momentum, you have to ride 400 plus watts and kind of keep it going, or you steady baseline it at 300 everywhere, but that's really, really slow. And so I ended up coming off the bike with like 16 or 17 minutes lead, and I was completely fine, like, and I still had an over 10-minute lead with 10k to go, and then just suddenly the lights went out, and like I almost felt I walked to the line pretty much, and lost. I came second, but I like lost the 10 minutes like that in the last.
And so that was one of the Wales, right?
No, Bolton. Okay, yeah.
UK.
Yeah. Okay. So the lights going. When you say the lights going out, do you contribute that to fueling, or do you contribute that to the high effort on the bike?
Fueling a little bit, but I think more hydration more than anything. I lose so much water that I need to, and that was for me the breakthrough in Kona was making sure I drink enough that I hadn't done up till now. Like I'd always set out, and all my previous time I set out a nutrition strategy, but never like a hydration strategy.
And it was hot.
Just because
It's freezing.
It was cold.
In Manchester it was freezing, yeah, but I still.
But so
I
much
still
so
got
when they went into the medical tent, they actually had to cool him down, to put him into an ice.
everybody,
So this is where core would
Yeah.
help, right?
everybody else was like in survival.
Blankets
Yeah,
and
and I was in
we're
that-
putting
I was
cold
in-
ice and cold water over it.
Yeah.
But we did think the lake, it could have been, we felt like I wasn't on a good day because the water and stuff, I'd swum in the lake 3 days before and apparently it was bad water and blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
the lake they swim in has signs everywhere. Do not let your dog or you swim in it. Yeah, and we had Sam swam in it 2 days before, wasn't it? 48 hours before. Yeah. So and I was walking around and saw these signs, and it's like, well, hang on a minute, they're putting a big race in now.
Yeah.
And it was. I think you said you were sick a couple of times, weren't you?
I lose about 3.5 litres of water an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My sodium isn't too high. It's like per litre it's not high, but when you add it to obviously 3 litres it becomes, so I lose about 400 milligrams of sodium, 400 to 500 milligrams of sodium an hour per litre, sorry. But then that adds up to a lot more.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that like literally in Kona was like I got into T1, drank a whole 750ml bottle in T1, you know, and then every single aid station I was drinking at least 500ml. I set off with 5 litres on my bike. It was just,
5 readers on your bike?
yeah.
And that's right. In Kona, everybody's talking about Sam having and a couple of having water bottles down their tops as a
tea bag?
yeah.
The green
Oh.
tip. Whiskey tip.
And so they're talking about sort of doing it from an aerodynamic perspective,
Yes.
putting this down. And realistically, it wasn't at all because that's the best place to hold the water. That time you pick a bottle and put it down and just carry on cycling.
It wasn't an aero perspective though. I think.
But it wasn't pre-planned to put it down there to be tested, everything else. And a lot of people thought, oh yeah, they're all having fairies down their chest. It wasn't. It's just a bog standard bottle that you picked up. Yeah, every single time. It wasn't anything.
Yeah.
It's significant stuff.
Yeah.
I did it 2 years ago. So.
Yeah.
I remember that discussion about that. They were wondering if it was a planned thing as a fairing. Because it makes sense.
Yeah, it was for me. It was fun.
Some of them, I believe, did have.
Had fairings?
Yeah, down there. I think Joe did. I think he had something aerodynamic down his side.
No,
But also, I think it's
that
also quite a good area to cool your body down as well at the same time. If you've
Yeah.
got a cold bottle on your chest and
Yeah.
the wind running over it, it's only going to do you. It's only going to keep your core down, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to start making chest-shaped bottles.
Bottles, yeah.
Tiny bottles, and just squeeze it back. Drop the cap and squeeze it back. Instead of hanging on the bike, have it on your chest. That's a great idea.
When they did the sub
We're gonna have
seven,
to-
when
we're
they
gonna
did
have to
when they did the
pack-
sub seven, when they did the sub
I left the record.
when they did the sub 7 project, they all had the camelback down the front. Then.
Oh yeah, triangular camelback with my tape.
Bit hard to fill them.
Except it gets really hot, and you have to have a way to keep it cool on your back, because that's the one problem with camelback.
No, well, it's in
No,
the
you
sub 7
you-
you had in the chest. The sub 7 project, they had
When they did the
camelback in
sub 7
in the chest.
and they all had it. They all had it. They all filled their skin suit with them.
But no, they did. It wasn't. It wasn't to
Oh, because it
drink.
wasn't hot.
Yeah.
Right. They were
No, they were drinking it. I think.
Germany? No, where were they? Where was the
Germany.
trap?
Yeah, Germany.
I don't think so.
Was it Germany?
Was it?
Yeah, I'm sure it was in Germany.
No, it's like in Slovakia.
Okay.
No.
Yes. So one of our other two are.
And I have a magnet.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah.
They're traveling together?
Yeah.